This is Dental All Stars, where we bring you the best in dentistry on marketing, management, and training. Here's your host, Alex Nottingham.
Welcome to Dental All Stars. Our guest is Robyn Reis. She is the hiring director at All Star Dental Academy. She is also a certified HR consultant with Ben Erickson and Associates and a guest faculty at the Pankey Institute. She helps hundreds of practices with practice management, administration, marketing, hiring, HR, and team culture. We're talking about the 5 steps to dental hiring. Please welcome Robyn.
Thanks, Alex. Great to be here.
Great to have you, as always. The director, that's your nickname, the director. So give me an overview. And I know we talked about this before and you said, the 5 steps, that can take me a whole day to go through. Give me 15 minutes. What are the 5 steps to dental hiring? Because just some background, you also, as the title suggests, you run our hiring department where we help recruit and hire team members. And these 5 steps are what we teach and what we utilize. So tell me about the 5 steps.
Absolutely. Speaking about dental hiring, having a plan really is what is most important. And a lot of dental practices don't. They're very knee-jerk in the moment, having to make some decisions. So it's really having that plan in advance. So when your team does change, that you're prepared and you have these steps in place. And these are steps that have been proven over and over again to really work successfully in any size practice anywhere in the country. Like you mentioned, we work with a lot of practices, and each practice is unique to themselves. They don't have a special description. Most dental practices have the basic functions, but what makes them unique is where they're located, their team, and of course, the culture and leadership of the practice. So really, before we even jump into the 5 steps, we want to make sure that practices have their employee personnel manual. And we've talked about this too, Alex, about the employee manual is really about the relationship of the doctor and the team members, and it really spells out expectations and benefits and perks and all of that good stuff. Much like your standard operating manual has the systems of how the business runs. So it's the people behind the systems, it's the people behind the business that make it so successful and so unique. So that's the foundational piece before we even jump into the 5 steps.
You're right. You have to have the manual, but even stepping back further is the CEO, the dentist, has to be clear on what they're looking to create in their office. And we're going to do another podcast on recruitment versus hiring, right? Being proactive, thinking about your organizational structure, because that's what we do here in Dental All Stars and All Star Dental Academy is bring the business aspect. What do businesses do? Not just dental offices, they are businesses, but often they don't run like a business. It starts with the visionary. We were just reading a book called Traction. You have the visionary, you have the integrator, and then you go into those departments. But if the dentist is not embracing that role as visionary, it doesn't have a vision for, what type of practice do you want? And I think many of them, if I push them hard enough, they want great customer service in their business. They want to practice that they can help people, that they can do the geeky dental stuff, and that they can make money. And that's fine. We have to articulate that. Then what do the team have to look like to create that vision? And then once that's created, and so we're in the recruitment mindset of how you set your department up, then you're talking about making sure your HR, human resources, is properly provided, i.e. the manuals or SOPs, standard operating procedures. And then we get into the tactic, because that's why I was right out the gate, the tactic called hiring. And we work with a lot of dentists, probably most of them are like freaking out. I need people and hire. And we do that very well. That's a tactic. But we try to encourage them to think a little bit. That's why there's questionnaires and discussions to think, what are you looking to attract? Before we even put pen to paper or fingers to the typewriter, or the keyboard, we have to have in our mind what we're looking to create. Are we on the same page here?
Absolutely. And Alex, you mentioned the keyword vision. Having a vision for your practice, that really helps drive every decision you make. Is this taking us closer to our vision or further away? And it's even more important when we talk about getting the people on our team. We use the analogy a lot about, the dentist is the bus driver, and we want to make sure that people who are getting on our bus and heading in the direction that we want to go, that we have them in the right seats. So let's talk about those tactics one by one. We talked about the employee manual having that vision in place. So step one is to develop the job description. This is what I call the recipe for success. You can use it not only for existing team members to get really clear about expectations, roles, responsibilities, and those elements of the job description, but it also helps for future behavior and future performance evaluations where you get to say, how well are you performing in this position? Where are there learning opportunities? Where are the mastery pieces? And that really sets the stage for how you bring somebody into your practice, is understanding truly the person who sits in this role and performs these duties. What do they look like? What characteristics do we need? What key skills and responsibilities and maybe even special education will they need? And what is the job in our office? What does that entail? So that is about not only essential job duties, but are there physical and environmental requirements? What are the key attributes? You've heard people skills, right, versus technical skills. So what are those people skills that we want? What are the technical skills that we want? And interestingly enough, 67% of hiring managers will always lean more towards people skills versus technical skills. And Alex, we've had this conversation a gazillion times about how you always want to hire for enthusiasm and attitude versus skill, because we can train the dentistry. We can teach people the terminology and the techniques and how to pour a model and how to answer the phone. What we can't teach is that innate ability to want to be of service to people, to really want to enjoy the job that they do. And dentistry really is about people. It's, dentistry is what we do, but it's the people that we work with and the people that we serve that is really our guiding principle. So when we think about job descriptions, again, we've had several discussions lately with clients about, they just have a one-sheet piece of paper that describes, come in, turn on the lights, turn on the computer, make sure that the compressor is turned on and the water lines are on. That is very much a step-by-step, here are what the things that you need to do to start the office, but it really doesn't give you a sense of what is the job itself. And so we talk about elements of that job description. It's the title. It's the classification. Are they a non-exempt or an exempt employee? And what does that mean? Who do they report to? What is this job summary? As a dental assistant in our practice, this is the expectation. Then we list the job duties. Then we list those key skills and abilities. We talk about any special educational requirements. Some practices want an accredited schooling certificate. Other practices say, we are happy to train you on the job. What are the environmental and physical requirements? And some of those pieces, the key skills and the environmental and physical responsibilities or what somebody can expect in this role, those actually meet the Americans with Disabilities Act and the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, those requirements for every job description. So it's a fair and across the board playing field that anyone who meets these criteria, these qualifications, has an opportunity to compete for the position. So we want to make sure that job descriptions are written to meet record retention requirements and also compliance issues. So then once we have our recipe, then we get to develop our job posting. And again, research has shown what is the sweet spot, how many words, whether it's a mobile site or another job site that has an engine that blasts it out to the different job boards. So when you use your job description to create your job posting, we want to answer some key questions that an applicant is looking for. We want to first identify what is the practice? Who are you? Where are you located? And, what makes you special? Then the next component is what position are you looking for? And we want to describe for that potential candidate, here are the expectations. Here are the key skills we're looking for and what we find to be an ideal, I'm using dental assistant as an example. What are the requirements? Do you have to have that accredited schooling certificate? Do you have to have X-ray certification? So we're going to identify those things in the job posting, as well as here are the benefits. Here's what you can expect as a member of our team. Here's the schedule. Here are the benefits. And if it sounds like this might be the opportunity for you, we use a call to action. Submit your resume, submit a cover letter, tell us a little bit about you. And that's what our hiring team really does. They focus on creating those job posts that will attract the talent that our client is looking for. So it's really important that you understand, too, when you write that job post, that it's not generic. And we've talked and laughed about different examples that we've seen out in the world that really you can get a sense of the culture and you can get a sense of the practice simply by how they advertise for a position. The third step in dental hiring is now that you have the post and you've gotten some resumes, you now start identifying and interviewing those candidates that could be a fit for your practice. And we do it in stages. We do a phone interview, a Zoom interview, and then we help the doctor and the team interview that candidate in person. And each step of that stage, it's a screening process. I mean, ultimately, recruiting, interviewing is a process of elimination. We have this idea that we'll have a unicorn and, we're looking for that unicorn. And we know in today's war on talent that those unicorns are few and far between. So we want to make sure, what are the basic skills and abilities that we're looking for? What is the attitude and the behavioral characteristics that is going to fit really well in our culture? And I know culture is a completely separate discussion, but it definitely influences how you interview as well. So during that interview process, there are questions you want to get to understand who they are pretty quickly, asking situational questions, asking behavioral questions, and ultimately getting to the point where, wow, this sounds like this could be a new team member for this particular practice. And everybody is different. Everybody is unique. So we want to make sure we are asking those questions every step of the way to eliminate potential people that aren't a good fit. We want to do our due diligence on the front end so that hopefully the doctor will choose an applicant that's going to stay there for a long time. So let's get to that step 2. Step 4 is once you've interviewed, we've narrowed it down, you found the candidate you wanted, now you get to make the offer. And we help create that offer letter. We help do the homework behind that. And that's another thing that a lot of practices don't do because they don't have the time or they're short-staffed, is checking employment references. We joke about this all the time, Alex, but the idea that 85% of resumes out there, according to an Inc. and Forbes article, are falsified or embellished in some form or fashion. So saying that they were a lead dental assistant at a dental practice may or may not be true if they were the only dental assistant at that particular practice. So it really is verifying that information. You want to trust people, but you must verify to make sure that you are bringing someone on into your team that is going to fit well and also is going to get along well with others And we want to make sure that they're giving us the most accurate and correct information. And lastly, the fifth step, of course, and again, another often overlooked step in the dental practice, and that is an onboarding program. There was a Gallup poll that said 69% of applicants who had a structured onboarding program were 69% were more likely to stay 3 years or longer in that particular organization. Now, that speaks volumes in knowing that when they first started interviewing and saw the job post, they're already creating in their mind what this practice and environment and culture is going to be like. So now that they've gotten to the point where they were chosen and you're now bringing them into the practice, it's up to you, the doctors, the team, to ensure that successful integration with this new hire, that they have structured onboarding. They have a training buddy. There's a plan. And part of that plan is those regular check-ins. How's it going? Here's the list of duties that you were reviewing this week. Where are you? How well are you integrating? And are they asking questions? The expectation would be, if we use the 90-day orientation and training period as an example, that first 30 days, they should be asking a ton of questions and taking a ton of notes. That second 30 days into 60 days, those questions should be minimal. They'll still need some direction, but those questions should be minimal. And by that 90th day that they've been in your practice, they should certainly have a full command and understanding of the role, the expectations, and be able to function very well with minimal supervision by that 90th day. Because at any stage that you find that somebody's not getting it, not retaining that information and that training, you want to, press pause and make sure, is this still a good decision? And those check-ins really will prove valuable in helping somebody integrate into a new team, especially if you have an established and seasoned team that has worked together for a long time. You can imagine the intimidation a new hire would feel coming into that. So making sure that they are getting the training in the way that they will use it the most and maximize it the most is important. And that's where you get that check-in. That's where you get that feedback. That's where you understand, is this person getting the information that they need to be able to function at a high level with our team in a specific period of time.
What of these steps do dentists typically do, and what do they typically skip that you find when they do it on their own?
When they do it on their own, they're typically going right to, let's create an ad. Let's describe what, Betty Sue just did, and put it out there and start interviewing people. They skip the job description. They really don't sit down and decide, hey, what worked well with Betty Sue? What didn't work well with Betty Sue? Let's see if we can avoid that. Most often they hand it off to the office manager or the administrative leader and say, hey, put an ad on Indeed and let's hope for the best. So there's really no plan. That's what I think they skip, is gathering the troops and figuring out what worked, what didn't, and what can we avoid next time. The other part of that is, yes, interviewing. Another podcast, I'm sure, is, the ghosting and applicants not showing up.
That would be a good one. Did you get ghosted?
And things like that. Yes. And, not showing up after they've gotten the job and all that good stuff. But that's another thing I think for the interviewing questions. Oftentimes it's, some standard basic questions, not really getting to the heart or the meat of what makes a person successful in this role, and asking those behavioral or situational questions. And most often doctors and team leaders, and I understand this, it's human nature, is they just want to hire somebody they like. They want to hire somebody that they, enjoy talking to and they think will be able to do the job. And oftentimes, again, that doesn't work out to either person's benefit. And the due diligence part, after they make the offer, they don't do the homework. They don't check former employment verifications. They don't do a background check, or they don't do a personality profile. Because again, when we think about HR and the dental industry, most practices don't have the ability to have a separate dedicated HR department. So it's often left to the office manager or some administrative person to take on that role, which they may or may not know about. They may or may not know about employment compliance and the laws that pertain to their particular practice. And they're doing their best job that they can because that's what their doctor asked them to do. And often, again, it's not to their strength. And then, of course, onboarding. Most practices, their onboarding consists of, here's how you clock in. Here's where you put your work stuff, your lunch, and then go answer the phones or,
Right.
Jump right in. And we hope, again, we cross our fingers and hope for the best. And that's really not considered a structured onboarding program.
And then, by listening to this, it explains why they may wonder, why are so many people either ghosting me because it wasn't set up properly, or they get hired and they quit very early, or they're not the right person because you didn't do your due diligence. There's a quote, if you don't have the time to do it right, when would you have the time to do it over? And that's what this is all about. So tell me about the hiring service.
So All-Star Hiring Service was born out of the need for clients calling us and asking us, hey, I need help with finding a front office team member. And we have since expanded it into the clinical positions. And what makes me most proud is that we have an amazing team of hiring specialists that have all worked in a dental practice, who all understand the business of dentistry, who all understand what teams go through when they have somebody missing. And there's a lot of transition with practices nowadays, people moving, practices being purchased, new ownership coming in. And so there is a lot of turnover. There is a lot of transition. And so our hiring specialists connect with a client, and we create those questions, we create those job postings, and we will even help create the job description if they don't have one, to really make it a successful hiring process as possible. And so each hiring specialist becomes an extension of the client that we work with. So we get to know the practice. We get to know what makes them special, what makes them unique. We have a questionnaire. We have some, steps that we involve to make sure that we do understand that practice as best as we possibly can. Then we go out and function as if we were working in the practice, but we do a lot of it behind the scenes. We get those phone interviews scheduled. We get those Zoom interviews scheduled. We have constant connection and communication with the doctor and whoever's working with us to do the interviewing process. And once that happens, we arrange for that in-person interview. We help with the job offers. We help with the personality profiles, the background checks. It is a all done for you service so that dentists and office managers and assistants and hygienists, they all get to do what they do best, and that's take great care of their patients. We get to do the behind the scenes heavy lifting on getting ghosted and talking to amazing people. There are such great, amazing talent out there, and they're getting snatched up pretty quickly. So it is moving very quickly. And that is probably the key to our success, is those practices that stay in constant communication with us, email, text messaging, calling, before hours, after hours, during hours. All of that keeps that potential for that talented person to be the one that we get to snatch up and we get to integrate with the client's practice.
It really is a no-brainer, because I'm thinking about, because of the nature of the economy, hiring was tough before. It's even more difficult now, that you have to armor up. You have to have the resources available to compete well. And not only is this process being done, but you're being educated throughout to do it strategically. To learn more, go to allstardentalacademy.com/hiring, and you can learn more about the hiring service. Robyn, thank you for the in-depth discussion about the 5 steps to dental hiring.
My pleasure, Alex. As you know, it's something I'm passionate about. And I hope people will take a look at All-Star Hiring Service and see how we can help you.
Please remember to follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And the more that you follow and like and comment, the more that you can help all your dental buddies. And when you follow, you immediately get these episodes once they're launched, and you can digest them at your convenience. Until next time, go out there and be an all-star.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Dental All-Stars. Visit us online at allstardentalacademy.com.